Welcome, AlgaTalk listeners, to another episode. Before we get started, we have an announcement. We've started a Patreon page. This allows our audience to become patrons of our podcast and everything that we do. Becoming a patron allows us to bring you better content with more interviews from people associated with algae from around the world. AlgaTalk is entering a new phase. Yvonne and I have certainly some ideas for YouTube and different things that we would like to bring to the world to create awareness about algae. If you'd like to become a patron of AlgaTalk, you can simply click the icon Support the Show at the right-hand corner on algatalk.com. I think you will hear in the next episode, the audio is a little bit bad, and you'll understand why Yvonne and I have created this Patreon page so that maybe we can start funding better technology and be able to bring better content to you, the audience. So let's get started with the show. In this episode, I interview Courtney Myers, who is co-founder of Akua, which has created a Kelp Jerky. This company has only been around since 2019, only a few months old, and already they have made a splash in the algae world. I first learned of Akua via their social media campaign, and boy is it strong. From sharing people and their experience with Kelp Jerky to cool articles about how important kelp is. They're really making kelp very cool. And I think that the reason is that Akua believes that if they can create awareness of not only their product of Kelp Jerky, but the importance of kelp as a whole, it will help the entire industry. In this way, AlgaTalk shares a strong ideal with Akua, that spreading awareness about algae is essential to growing the market. Like Courtney says, a rising tide lifts all boats. During our AlgaTalk, we discussed about how Kelp Jerky is using local farming and down process via Sea Greens Farms in Maine. We discussed the different types of Kelp Jerky, the sesame nori sea salt, rosemary maple barbecue, spicy Thai, and spirulina. It makes my mouth water just thinking about them. We also went over how important kelp is to fight climate change and how eating more kelp can reduce CO2 outtake by not eating meat jerky and instead to eat kelp jerky. I hope you enjoy our AlgaTalk. What is the story of the founding of Akua?
The idea basically was born out of our first visit to the Greenwave farm in New Haven, Connecticut. And Greenwave is a nonprofit that provides training to the New England ocean farming industry and provides the spores to essentially seed the farm. And I was helping Greenwave with fundraising. And we were doing like bike rides up the New England coastline to raise money and awareness for the ocean farming industry. As I learned more about the health benefits of eating seaweed and just how much I wanted this industry to grow, I wanted to get deeper involved. And so I said, what do you truly need? They said, we could use your help creating a consumer market for kelp. We launched Akua in 2016 and formed the company in 2017. That was when we started doing R&D around different consumer-based products. So like we have recipes for kelp soups and burgers and sausages and chips and noodles. And it was Kelp Jerky that we thought would be an amazing first product to launch with.
You said originally you started looking into other recipes for kelps, other ways to use it. What was the reason why you went with jerky? Did you see that in the market it would be more accepting to the public?
So we were looking at food trends. There were two that really stuck out to us. One was the rise of jerky, high-protein snacking. At the time, Crave Jerky sold to Hershey's for $300 million. And we were like, wow, people are like obviously really hot on jerky. And then we looked at there existed many people are very averse to soy, whether it's because of GMO or allergies. We're going to take these two trends, plant-based eating, jerky, high-protein eating, and deliver a first-of-its-kind vegan snack product.
So the Kelp Jerky, your market would be towards everybody, but specifically the vegan market, which is a growing market. I see that you on the website, it says it's sustainable kelp. So I'm guessing you guys are not taking it straight out of the ocean, but growing it yourselves.
That's right. We source 100% of our kelp from regenerative ocean farms. All of the kelp that we source for our products is from the New England area. 95% of it's from Maine and 5% of it's from Rhode Island.
The farmers that grow the kelp, they are part of ACUA, like ACUA is farming it, or these are private farmers?
We believe that farmers should own their farms, and we work directly with them.
So once you have the farmers who are growing the seaweed on sheets, I'm guessing, not...
No, they're rope grown. So if you picture like a 3D square rope in the middle of the ocean, kelp is grown off the top of the rope and it grows downward from there.
So I've seen this before. This is like a way I've seen in the Philippines. They have like a rope system where they also grow a different kind of seaweed. It's tied on, they kind of grow it. So I'm guessing it's the same process. The length of time to grow it in the ocean, how long is the process?
They plant in November, harvest in May, so it's a 6-month growing process. We harvest it when it's about 6 feet long and it grows about a foot a month. If it grows too much in the as the water warms up in like June and July, you're at risk of biofouling. So it just has to kind of be the sweet spot between it. The length, so obviously your crop yield is higher and you can get more money for it as a farmer, and then you have to cut it though before any biofouling starts with the warmer water.
I'm guessing these farmers also are biologists. They're checking up on the kelp, making sure it's growing right, a certain level of quality. What's interesting me about growing kelp in this way is that it's also able to be a part of taking out CO2 from the atmosphere. We all know that algae is beneficial to the environment, and growing this more in a farming kind of way is actually beneficial to the planet.
Yes, exactly. There's varying studies that have come up with reports that the kelp in the water sequesters between 5 and 30 times the amount of CO2 that a land-based plant would from the air. And then there's a little bit less than that ratio of pulling nitrogen out of the water. So when we look at creating our snacks, we obviously look at that as a really interesting data point, but we also compare it to if you were to eat a bag of meat jerky, right?
Right.
Meat jerky obviously is a big creator of carbon. What we look at is like the comparison between like reducing your carbon footprint with every bag of kelp jerky that you eat. So that's when it gets like really exciting for us.
So once the kelp is collected, you guys have a central source where you guys process it to create the jerky? We
work with a processing company called Sea Green Farms up in Maine. They are one of maybe 6 kelp processing centers in the U.S., and they will take the kelp, which is like dark brown and wet at the time, and they'll blanch it in boiling water. It then turns this beautiful bright green, and then they will cut it and chop it and then vacuum seal it and freeze it and send it to our manufacturing facility, which is in Connecticut, which runs on 90% solar power, which is pretty cool. Then begins blending process and a dehydration process with all of the other kind of superfood ingredients that are in the jerky.
I see that you have multiple different flavors. Can you tell me about the flavors, why you chose those?
Of course, yeah. So we are looking at bringing kelp to a mainstream market. So we chose the sesame and nori flavor because it's very similar to the nori sheets associated with the sheets, with sushi. So we wanted something to kind of like be in line with that. The barbecue is obviously more for like the meat jerky eater, a hickory smoke, something kind of sweet, savory, a little spice. And then our spicy Italian spirulina, turmeric in it, is just like kind of like our wild child. It's quite spicy. It's obviously like the turmeric, so it has a bit of an Indian, and then you mix with the Thai spices. So it's a very interesting flavor.
So not only do you have biologists and farmers, you also have chefs putting these combination of flavors, thinking about what would be interesting to the public market.
Yes, exactly. So we've worked with numerous chefs and food scientists to bring kelp jerky to life.
So talking about you've just started this, can you tell me about how it's been going so far? How have you been selling it? Who's been buying it?
We are in 23 stores across the nation, and then we're doing about 80% of our sales on our website at akua.co.
Yeah, I've seen this. It's a great website. Really gives you a nice, easy feeling around the website to be able to purchase them. Are you guys only selling in America at this point?
We offer shipping to the UK, Canada, and Australia as well, and we will take custom orders from anyone in the world who wants to buy it. It's just we ask them that they pay for shipping because that can be quite costly.
I see that one of your strategies is a big presence in the social media platforms, and you try to kind of really in a simple way make Kelp Jerky cool. And I personally think you guys very much succeed at that. Where do you guys get that from? I'm connecting it to more the concept that the public in general doesn't have a large awareness of algae, of seaweed. Is this part of your strategy to try to spread the word about how healthy kelp is alongside spreading the word about kelp jerky?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we're sort of like a seaweed PR machine. And we really do believe that a rising tide lifts all boats for the whole industry.
Absolutely.
So we host dinners every month with other seaweed companies. You know, we're really supportive of when another seaweed company has, like a seaweed food company has an announcement, we always reshare it. Like, we're really into just getting more and more people eating kelp. And we don't really see ourselves as just a kelp jerky company, but really as a platform to bring kelp into the mainstream as a food product.
What is on the horizon for Akua? Are there different products you guys are thinking about making?
Yeah, so we're working on future flavors for kelp jerky, kelp crackers, and likely kelp protein balls are next.
Very interesting that this market is continuing to grow, and I personally hope that Akua will be an important part in that in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. We do too.
Now that was an informational AlgaTalk. I hope you learned a lot about Akua and their kelp jerky, and how creating more awareness of kelp via their social media campaign can create more awareness of algae and the industry as a whole. If you're interested in following Akua on their social media, look them up at @lifeakua on Instagram. And you can always follow our social media at AlgaTalk. We have new memes and amazing articles about all the advancements of algae. So if you keep listening, we'll keep alga talking.